Yeah. Sometimes we laugh and sometimes we cry, but I guess you know now. Baby, I took a half and she took the whole thing. Slow down. Baby, we took a trip, now we on your block and it's like a ghost town. Baby, where did these niggas be at when they say they doing all this and all that? Tired of beefing you bums, you can't even pay me enough to react. Been waking up in the crib and sometimes I don't even know where I'm at.
Great. I had to record this podcast all over again. I'll give you all a little backstory. I actually got a little head cold. I tested for COVID, super negative. So I'm still dealing with like some throat issues. So I was recording this just for a couple minutes. Throat went like crazy. I started coughing. So I got me some water next to me now. So I should be good to record this entire podcast. But welcome. It's Bredisode, whatever it is. But this is Summer Flicks. Going to be talking about some movies that I've seen within this year, to be honest. And I'm going to talk about all the movies I've seen. So this is not going to be Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, or whatever. This is going to be about the movies I've seen in theaters. So I actually got this pass from AMC, $25 a month, or $24 roughly. And I get to watch up to 3 movies per week. I get discounts on food. I get $5 off on food once I reach like a certain amount of points. It's a really good system. I would advise y'all, if you watch movies or you want to like, just figure out dates with your, significant other, I would advise both of y'all to get the pass and just watch like, 2-3 movies a month. If you do that, you make your money back. So do it. I try to watch as much movies as I can to get this movie back. So let's really get into it. I'm going to be going from worst to best. I'm going to be explaining the movie just a little bit. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so I don't want to tell y'all the entire movie. Then, y'all go out and y'all don't want to go out and watch it. So I'm going to go from worst to best. So first, I'm going to start with this movie Ambulance. So if you don't know Ambulance, it is a it's not a Jake Gyllenhaal film. It's a Michael Bay film, but Jake Gyllenhaal and another famous actors in it too. But essentially, the main actor who's not Jake Gyllenhaal, they're both co-stars, but they're brothers. So Jake Gyllenhaal and this guy are brothers. The guy is like an ex-military guy. He's going through some like financial troubles, and he grew up in crime and stuff, but he doesn't really want to go back into it. But Jake Gyllenhaal, who's his brother, is still in it, and he reaches out to Jake Gyllenhaal for some money. Jake Gyllenhaal says, "Rob this bank with me, and you'll be good." So things go sour. They hurt a cop in the process, and they drive off in an ambulance. They negotiate with the police along the way, all that good stuff. Be honest with you, it was a lot of good action. There was a lot of good action in the movie. A lot of things go wrong. So many things go wrong, and they have to get themselves out of it. They're negotiating with the police. They're figuring out who Jake Gyllenhaal is because they didn't really know who the guys were in the ambulance. It was a lot going on. Jake Gyllenhaal played a really dope role. But every other role was whatever. The substance of the movie was whatever. This movie was just known for its action and its like cool, like car, like, drifting scenes with the ambulance. The guy, the main character of the film, he was like known for his driving skills as like a military vet. So he was just like driving around with the ambulance. So it was really good for, watching visually the action. If you really like action, this would be a good movie for you. But in terms of everything else, it was underwhelming. Wasn't really that good of a movie. I remember what happens at the end, but I really forgot what happens throughout. But it's a typical Michael Bay film. If you ever watch Transformers, plot's not that good, but a lot of action. So if you want to just watch something with a lot of action, watch Ambulance. It's a 3 out of 10. I'm pretty harsh with the reviews just because there's so many movies. I can't give them all 10s. I can't give them all 9s. I can't give them all 8s. So I'm giving you my true honest thing. I'm not going to watch Ambulance again. So a 3 out of 10. The next movie, Lightyear. Lightyear was a film about Buzz Lightyear. This movie is about the movie that inspired Andy And Andy is the owner of the toys Woody and Buzz. If you don't know too much about Toy Story, this is derived from Toy Story. So Toy Story is a 4-movie series about toys that come to life. So this movie is about the movie that inspired the toy owner to get the Buzz Lightyear toy. Movie was not terrible, but everything was underwhelming, because just knowing the 4-part series of Toy Story, it was so like good, and I would give those movies 7s and up. But this movie was so underwhelming. You know, it didn't really give too much of an impact given the star-studded cast. And I'm not even saying it's studded, but it had the guy that plays what is it? Krog, whatever his name is, from the Rock dude from Thor. The Rock dude from Thor, Chris Evans, and Keke Palmer, and some like other notable actors. And it did not help with the impact with this film. Their roles weren't that like, you know, star power. It wasn't too much power in it. It didn't really live up to the hype in terms of the first 4 Toy Story movies. This is actually one of the most underperforming Pixar films I've seen. And I'm not going to lie, I think the last really good Pixar film that came out was Coco in 2017? So Pixar hasn't really lived up to that hype. They've been losing it a bit. So hopefully they could get it back and running. Hopefully Lightyear was just like a stump. I think Toy Story 4 has came out in the process too. It wasn't too much of a bad movie. I feel like they could have left it out. So hopefully they could do something better with this Pixar that they got going on. If you want to learn more about Pixar, I do have an episode, Bredisode, about Pixar theory. So definitely crack into that. But yeah, it does have funny aspects in Lightyear. So, you know, it's a good film to watch with your family. Good to watch with the little ones, you know. Yeah, it's a 3 out of 10. Another movie is Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. So this movie is about a black church, a black mega church. And the pastor of that church gets caught up in some allegations. So they create a quote-unquote documentary to show that they're better than ever. You know what I mean? Take another sip of water. Yeah. They're trying to, you know, bring their church back. But there's another church down the street that's just getting better. So nobody wants to go back because of his allegations that he had, because those allegations are that harsh. I thought they were going to address a lot of good things in this movie, because it was Daniel Kaluuya produced and it was Jordan Peele produced. If you don't know these guys, Daniel Kaluuya is the star of Get Out. He was also in Black Panther. And he was also the star in the new movie Nope, which I'll be discussing later. Jordan Peele, we know him. He's made some pretty good movies. He has 3 movies within the past like 6 years, 5 to 6 years. And they're all like, you know, box office hits in my eyes. So I'm thinking Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul is up to that par. I'm not comparing those movies, but I'm thinking it's going to be good. It was very underwhelming because they didn't address the topics they addressed in the movie. They like beat around the bush of what was going on, and they used satire to convey that, and their satire wasn't even that good. I didn't really like it. It was something about it I just did not like. Because when those allegations came out, I was like, okay, cool. Now they discuss the allegations. How are they going to address it? How are they going to use this? How are they going to convey this message? How are they going to do it? And they beat around the bush with it. But one thing I can say about this movie that really helped its review, and it's really sad because the movie was that bad, but one thing really was the anchor of this film, and it was Regina Hall's performance. Regina Hall probably played her best acting performance. And I'm not saying her best role, because her in Scary Movies was good. Like, she's had some really good roles where we notable for her. But in terms of acting performance, coming out her comfort zone, definitely Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul was her like thing. And I really appreciated her role in that movie because it was really good. She did everything she could. It was just a bad film. That's all I can say. That movie's a 3 out of 10. that was actually all of the 3 out of 10s that I have. I have a lot more movies to discuss. Bear with me. Next, I'll be talking about the next 2 movies that are 4 out of 10s. They're animated movies. I'm not knocking down animated movies. I think the animated movies that came out the past few years haven't really been that good anyways. So, DC League of Super Pets. Essentially, it's about Crypto, who's a super dog. Is a dog with superpowers, and he's the dog of Superman. I don't even know how to explain this. Superman gets captured by this other super pet, and along the process, these dogs and like other pets in this pet store get superpowers too. You got to watch the movie to see how they get the powers. Excuse me. Yeah, you got to see how they get these powers. They work with Crypto, who's the actor. The actor for Crypto is The Rock, and Kevin Hart's another actor, and he's a dog. They all have powers, so they work together to try to, save Superman and, save the world, basically. It's a good family film. It was actually surprisingly funny. That's really all I can say about it. Didn't have too much of a substance. Really just like a kid-like movie, but it had adult humor, so it played along with the fine line of like adult humor and kid movie, which they did pretty well, but it was just the substance of the movie that couldn't really grasp me too much. I actually fell asleep a little bit, not throughout the entire movie, probably like 5 minutes of it. It just wasn't really too well, and I knew I wouldn't watch it again, so that's why I really gave it a 4 out of 10. But still a good little family film. I'd watch it with the family. It's gonna be solid. Like, you're gonna like it. I gave it a 4 out of 10 just because it had dull moments. Humor wasn't that funny, but the humor would get funny here and there. It was very up and down. It was very inconsistent. So 4 out of 10. Next movie is this movie called The Bad Guys. The Bad Guys is a DreamWorks film. If you know anything about DreamWorks, that's the same production company that created Shrek and Puss in Boots and Kung Fu Panda, and a lot of other like good movies. So if you know anything about DreamWorks, you know that they provide some movies that are animated, but so it could be for kids, but it's on the fine line of adult comedy, which DreamWorks has played very well since they've ever came out. They have played along that good fine line of adult comedy and animation. So just to really get into it, it's a feel good film. It's super predictable. They try to make you like, oh, this is gonna be a dope plot twist. It really wasn't. The movie is about bad guys, about criminals that are like, animals. I think the Mr. Wolf, Miss Tarantula, Miss Shark. Oh no, Mr. Shark, and all these other Misters and Misses. They're like a criminal crew, and they go good because they got caught up in some stuff, but they're still kind of bad. But one of them, becomes good because they want the feeling of being good. So it's just a feel good film. Watch it if you want. Anything. I'm just gonna say this now. Anything past a 6 out of 10, I recommend watching. Anything under a 6, anything 6 and up, I recommend watching. Anything 5 and below, you can live your life without watching. And this is a movie that you could really live your life without watching. I give it a 4 out of 10. Just like DC League of Super Pets. I think that's it with the 4 out of 10s. Let's move on to 5 out of 10. Sorry to all my Marvel fans, but Thor: Love and Thunder was not it. And I can explain why. Thor, if you don't know, he's the god of thunder. He's in MC Marvel, and he's pretty been inconsistent with his movies. The first Thor was actually pretty solid. Second Thor was very underwhelming. Third Thor was his best Thor. Ragnarok was up there. So we're thinking Thor from now on is going to be playing with this fine line of adult comedy, but seriousness. It's going to be super funny, but also it's going to be super deep, a lot of action. It's going to be really good. This was the opposite end of the spectrum. It was just funny. And I'm not even saying it just didn't have no seriousness to the plot. Everything else was funny. They crack jokes all the time. Like he never in the Thor movies have I seen his Mjolnir is like his hammer, and then was it Stormbreaker? Stormbreaker is his other like axe. They basically had a life. Like they would like come up to him whenever they felt jealous about something. Like it was kind of weird. And you don't see that in the previous movie, so why they do it now? So they're really trying to throw this funny aspect because it was, Ragnarok had a lot of funny aspects. So they thought, oh, we found something with Thor. We're just going to be super funny with it. We're going to make it super animated and fun. And I think it kind of backfired on them. It didn't have too much of a plot. It wasn't, it had some solid action. It was funny. Like I said, it's funny. Plot was broad, and I'm just feel bad because the villain was Christian Bale, who, if you don't know who Christian Bale is, who played Batman. He played Psycho. Like he played some pretty good roles. So you're thinking, dang, this villain's gonna be nice, but he had a really underwhelming performance. It was just a really, not that good movie. But what really saves it is because it's that funny. Like it had a lot of funny aspects. So I gave it a 5 out of 10 because it's funny. And I felt like the movie was too fast. It went through, it didn't have too much character development. I have a lot bad to say about this movie, but it's still Marvel. So Marvel still does its thing. So even though I talk down on it a lot, I'm not saying I recommend watching it. You can live your life without watching it, but it still has some good aspects for you to watch. So I did give it a 5 out of 10. I think that was it with the 5 out of 10s. Let me see. Yes. So moving on to 6 out of 10. What movie do I want to start with first? Cool. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So from these ratings and beyond, I recommend watching these movies because they actually have some type of, good originality to it. And that's what I like about films nowadays. I don't really like too much of the cameos and the nostalgia. And one of these movies does have it, but I will explain why it's a 6 out of 10 in a minute because it does kind of have originality. Let me drink some water. Hold on. It's like ASMR low key. But yeah, first movie I'm talking about is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I was really concerned because before I watched this movie, I watched Sonic the Hedgehog 1 because I didn't watch the second one. So I was like, let me watch the first one. And really, you don't really need to watch the first one to watch the second one. You kind of catch up to speed. Number one is the introduction movie. But watching number one, I was actually surprised by it. So I would advise people to watch number one because it was actually surprisingly funny. Wasn't like deep. It's kind of like, like The Bad Guys and DC Super League of Pets. But something I really liked about it is that it kept its originality and, I didn't really expect too much out of this movie. So I had low expectations coming into this movie, and it actually exceeded my expectations. It was a feel-good film. It was surprisingly funny, and it gives you the idea that a third one's coming out. And I was actually like, you know what? I'm going to watch this again because it was actually pretty funny. And it was just as good as the first one. So I felt like, you know what? I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. It was low-key on the 5 end, but then I was thinking about it, man. I want to watch the third one too because I've seen this movie really had a lot of character development. Watch the first one, and then if you watch the second one, and it has more characters, it has a lot more character development. It wasn't too fast. They took their time with this movie. You could tell. I advise people to watch it. I advise people to watch the Sonic the Hedgehog series. It's not that bad. I gave it a 6 out of 10 because it is predictable. It is like a feel-good film, so they're not really doing too much with the plot. But it's pretty solid. It's pretty solid. I would watch the series. You would think, and they kind of put a twist to the Sonic the Hedgehog game because, he does collect rings and stuff. So you see why he collects the rings. So it's pretty cool. Like, I like how they did it. You know, it's a pretty good feel-good film. It's the best feel-good film out of this whole process. It's the best feel-good film in this entire like movie thing. Next, I'm gonna talk about the next movie is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So I'm not gonna really go in depth too much about. If you hear the clacking sound, that's a dog drinking out of a bowl. That's cool. Got a little puppy here for the weekend, so that's dope. But yeah, I'm not going to go in too deep to the plot because it's going to spoil a lot. But it's a Doctor Strange movie. Doctor Strange's MC Marvel Universe. It kind of discusses the multiverse. There's actually a superhero that is founded in this movie who could travel through the multiverses. Not trying to spoil anything on the villain or anything like that, but it would have been under a 6 because it was an underperforming movie. The ending was just bittersweet because the villain was doing so much, and then it gets to the end, and I'm not gonna lie, the villain was just overpowering. The villain was just too powerful, so it was just hard to beat this villain. So the villain had to quote unquote beat themselves. I'm sorry, that's the biggest spoiler I could give you in this movie. That was it. It was just bittersweet because it was just like the villain did all this entire movie, just do what they just did at the end. It was more bittersweet. I was just like, okay, it's good that they defeated the villain, but like this, you know, like that's all it took. So, and I also think with this film, it didn't really show how strong Doctor Strange was. Even though the villain was overpowering, and that's okay, I just feel like it didn't really show the capability of Doctor Strange. It was him running away from a villain the entire movie. It didn't really show that he could really fight her the way he can. It really showed, this movie just showed how strong the villain was. That's really it. And I feel like in a Doctor Strange film, it shouldn't really show how good a villain is. Sometimes it should really show what the superhero can do. But this whole movie, he was running away. Now let me talk about why it's good. It does have cameos and nostalgia, which we all love. You know, you'll see for yourself once you watch the movie. It's a lot of cameos, a lot of like, oh shoot, dang, they have him in here. Oh, I have this person in here. So that really anchored the film a little bit. Like I said, originality is like a big thing with me with like, you know, rating movies. And, you know, like I said, cameos and nostalgia does play a big part in like, you know, hindering originality. So what I really liked about Doctor Strange that's really original is that it was more of a thriller. It had a thrilling aspect to it. The villain was so overpowering that it was more of a scary movie. So like I said, he was running away, but it made it original because it was just like, it was kind of scary. And I forgot who produced the movie or directed it. It's a famous person who does thrillers. So he made this movie a very like thriller-like film. So appreciate him for that. But yeah, Doctor Strange in Multiverse, I give it a 6 out of 10. I recommend people watching it just because to see like a route that Marvel took that it's never got to in terms of thriller. And it had like weird like music and stuff to, you know, be a little suspenseful. I'm not gonna say it was a thriller throughout, but it was kind of gave you goosebumps. You know, it was pretty cool. So I did give it a 6 out of 10. And yeah, and it's kind of funny. I did say cameo and originality does not play a part, but it does. I just looked at some of the movies that I have like moving forward. Definitely cameos and nostalgia. I'm tripping. My bad. But next movie, another one at 6 out of 10 is this movie called The Barbarian. The Barbarian, I would have gave it higher. I'll tell y'all why in a minute. But it was a very original scary movie. It's a scary movie about this lady. She got this Airbnb in Detroit, and it's double booked with this dude. And she comes through. She's like kind of iffy about the dude. She's like, what the hell? What are you doing in my place? He's like, well, I got this room too. They both see that they got the room, and they're like, what the heck? And the guy's like, you could just stay here, and you'll figure it out in the morning because it's like raining and it's dark outside, so he doesn't want her to go out there. And that's where everything goes downhill after that. And, you know, you would think that you know where this movie's headed to after I say all this. And that's why I don't want to spoil it, because it's definitely not predictable at all. And that's why I gave it a 6 out of 10. I think everyone should watch this movie, because what you think is going to happen does not happen at all. Literally not at all. I advise everyone to watch this movie. Even if you don't like scary movies, watch this, because I was definitely flabbergasted. I watched this yesterday. I just watched this yesterday, and I really wanted to watch it first before I did this podcast. And I really appreciated that it did not go the way I thought it was going to go, because I really thought that this was going to happen, and it never did. And it was so crazy, because at one point in the movie, you think the movie's over, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, it just ended like this? Like, that's weak, but it moves on to the next part of the story, and you got to watch it. And one thing I could say about this movie that also made it better than what it is that Justin Long displayed his best role he has ever played. If you know who Justin Long is, if you ever seen the movie Dodgeball, he's the cheerleader guy in the movie. And if you ever seen Jeepers Creepers 1, he's the guy that Jeepers Creepers took his eyes from. So he's not familiar. He's not familiar. Yeah, he is familiar. He is familiar with these scary movies. So I would advise to watch this movie, because Justin Long played such a good performance, and he was so humorous. And this movie, I never seen a scary movie this humor heavy. It had a lot of humor and a lot of funny jokes. I wish I could spoil it for you, but I really want you to watch it for yourself. That's why I gave it a 6 out of 10, because people should watch it for yourself. It's really on the fine line of 6 and 7. That's how I feel like its originality and its humor plays a good part in this film. But I do want to say the reason why it's so low is because it's crazy turns in the movie. Like, it's crazy turns, because you're going to be like, it's going here, then it goes so left. And I feel like it goes so left that you're like, ugh, like that went a little too far. I didn't really expect this. It was kind of hard, you know. Trailer doesn't really expose too much, so that's good. And the strong humor kind of dampens the scariness in aspect of the film. So it's like, it's a big duality. It's a big duality with this movie, because you like its originality, you like that it had a different approach, but also at the same time, it wasn't as scary because of its heavy humor and its crazy turns. It was kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. But I do advise people to watch it, because even though if it doesn't give you that scary movie vibe, it's super fucking funny. Justin Long was fucking hilarious, and I will say that. That is it with the 6 out of 10s, I believe. Let me see. Sorry if you hear my dogs crying. Mailman comes at this time. I think that's it with the 6 out of 10s. Coolio, let's move on to 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is this movie Breaking. John Boyega plays John Boyega. If you don't know him, he's Finn from Star Wars. He's also coming in this movie Woman King with Viola Davis. So looking forward to that. Breaking. John Boyega, like I said, he's the main actor. He plays a guy who gets, fucked over by the VA system. He's a vet. They don't really pay him. They scammed him over some money. So he robs a bank to, show how flawed the system is. He doesn't even want the bank's money. He wants the VA to send him his money. So he goes in there, says he got a bomb, and he stays in there, and it's just like a really stellar performance. It kind of gives you like a John Q vibe, Denzel Washington type of vibe, but definitely like super left from John Q. Yeah, I would say watch it. I gave it a 7 out of 10 because John Boyega, he played his best role. I've seen him so far as an actor. Like, that was his best role. And you can actually look at reviews. You can look at Rotten Tomatoes that his role was the anchor of the film. Like, he really played his role well. Like, he was really fucking good. Like, I would watch it. I would watch it again. The movie did seem a little rushed, which I gave it a really low score. And it wasn't beyond John Boyega's performance. It wasn't that like compelling. That actor who recently just passed away is in the film, so that was the last film. So if you want to see his last film, I think it was, what's his name? Michael Williams, I think. Let me see. Let me look it up. I got my computer in front of me. But yeah, I think it was a pretty solid film. Let me see. Cast. Breaking cast. Yeah, Michael Williams. Okay, I was right. Yeah, Michael K. Williams. Yeah, that was his last movie. And he played a pretty solid role too. Just movie seemed a little rushed. That's why I gave it a 7 out of 10. But it does discuss flaws in the VA system and it addresses some messages that I liked. It's not I like that, but I like that it addressed messages in the film. So I actually watched that the same day as Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul, and I remember watching it with my girlfriend, and it was kind of funny because we thought Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul was going to be that movie, and it was flipped. She didn't really like Breaking to the best of its abilities because of the ending. She didn't like the ending. But it was actually inspired by a true story, Breaking. So how are they going to end it? If it was true, like, how was it going to end? So that's it with that. That was only 7 out of 10. So moving forward, let me turn this up. I don't even know what's the applause. I think this was the applause. Hold on. That's laughing. There it is. So these are the top movies. I didn't give out any 10s for this year, but these are the top movies. These are 8s and 9s. Let me start it off with the first one, Batman. I saw Batman and it was long. Think the only things I could say is that the acting wasn't like standoutish, and the length was very underwhelming. I was getting tired towards the end. It was a 3-hour film. I was like, wow. But I gave it 8 out of 10 because it wasn't like the other Batmans. Batman wasn't this player dude who was a millionaire and had everything and he had all these girls and stuff, right? It really showed the dark side of Batman. Batman's parents were killed in front of him as a child. He was an orphan who turned millionaire. He's going to have some like issues, and I think it really showed that he had some inner, issues, and there was a lot of flawed in his family. And I feel like y'all should watch it because it wasn't like the other Batmans. This was really deep. It had a very dark story, and it was kind of like murder mystery-esque. And I have a thing for murder mysteries because they're very unpredictable. I love unpredictable movies. If a movie's predictable, I kind of like stay away from it. But this movie was very like unpredictable. The plot was really thought out. I think the villain for this movie was great because you just didn't know where he was going with shit. Robert Pattinson could have played a better Batman, but that's neither here or there. But I think the movie was really good. It was very dark. So if you're looking for like a murder mystery and you don't mind watching a movie for that long, definitely Batman. Batman was definitely an 8 out of 10. And I've talked to my friends and they're like, whoa, like, I think it was like a 9. I think it was a 10. I think the length really dampened the movie a little bit. But if you don't mind watching a really long movie, Batman was really good. It's on HBO Max now, so definitely watch it. So Batman was good. So definitely watch that. What is the other one? So I have a couple. Next is Bullet Train. Bullet Train is a movie with Brad Pitt. It has a lot of famous actors, but Brad Pitt's like the main actor. It's about all these like assassins and hitmen on a train looking for a suitcase, and they're all fighting for it. At first, I thought it was going to be super predictable, but it wasn't as predictable as I thought, so that was actually really good. It was a solid film. It provided like some good roles, except for Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny didn't say a word. Like, I think he said like at most like not. He didn't even say 10 words. I know he didn't say 10 words. He did not say 10 words in that movie. But it was very funny. The movie was very funny. Had a lot of drama. Had a lot of like, a ton of action. It was action in almost every scene. But, if you like action, this is super good. I think the reason why this is an 8 is because it had a very large cast, kind of like, not like an Expendables type, but it had a very large cast, so it was really hard to follow with this movie because they try to develop every character, and that could seem very like overwhelming to watch a film, and it's just like there's so many characters. It's just so many characters to follow, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is very overwhelming, and it kind of like moves around a lot, and you're like, dang, like what is going on here, oh my god, like it's just too much to like, grasp. So I could see it could be a little too much, especially with action going everywhere. So it's just like your brain is moving a lot, but the story's good, the plot is good, and it's a solid film with a good roles, very funny, dramatic, a lot of action. Definitely watch it. Super good. That's why I gave it 8 out of 10 though, because it could be everywhere at some points. Is there another 8 out of 10? Did I miss? Batman? I saved this because these are my top 3. So these are 3 movies left. Nope. Nope was a really good film. Everyone is out there like, oh no, Nope isn't good. Nope is this, Nope is that. And I know why people are saying that. Because Nope isn't as deep as Get Out and Us. And it's fine. You could say that. You were comparing those movies, and it's fine. At the end of the movie, you're like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I understand why you don't get it. Because it's such a straightforward movie. You thought it was going to be just like Get Out. Oh, because you had the cereal, cereal and milk separated, and to Get Out, that means like difference of colors. No, they didn't have that in Nope. They didn't have it in Nope. It was so straightforward, but it still had deep things to, discuss, like exploitation, the black industry, a lot of things. I think this movie touched a lot on exploitation. Just watch the movie. And it was very original. We don't see sci-fi movies like that. Like, it was kind of inspired by Jaws, so the originality is kind of affected a bit, but, it's kind of like Jaws sci-fi style, and it was black. I loved it. But the only thing I didn't really like about the film that much is that the trailer exposed a lot of good aspects of the film. I think he should have kept the trailer very broad, and I think if the trailer was broad, more people would be surprised and like the movie a lot more. But the trailer did expose a lot of things. And he said, the trailer doesn't expose a lot of things in an interview. I think he said that. But he did. Like, it did. Like, I'm not even going to lie. Keke Palmer played a great performance. I liked this movie because it was straightforward over depth. But I really like Keke Palmer in this movie. She was thumbs up. Really good. Shouts out to Keke. And I appreciate people for Nope, for saying Nope is good. Because I do think Nope is good. I don't want to expose anything, but if you think the monkey has to do anything with the alien, it's not doing anything. This is not me spoiling anything. If you think the monkey has to do anything with the alien, dead it. It does not have to do anything with the alien. It has to do with someone's perception, or like, I'll let you figure it out because I don't want to spoil too much, but just watch it. And if you have issues, you can definitely reach out to me. You can just DM Bread Season on Instagram. BREDSZN. You can DM me and ask me, and I'll let you know. Okay? But yeah, it was an 8 out of 10. The last 2 movies. Number 1. These both are 9 out of 10s. Top Gun Maverick. So like I said, one of the best movies was nostalgic and cameo-ish. And it's one of the best movies. So I definitely lied about the nostalgia and cameo. But the reason why I gave it a 9 out of 10 is because I would watch it again, obviously. And Tom Cruise's role was good. And it added on from the previous movie super well. Like, it was 30 years later. So you're like, what the heck? Like, they can't do nothing like that. But it was actually a really good movie. It was sentimental. It was compelling. And the character development was so good. Like, it was about Tom Cruise, his role, Maverick, helping out the younger people to do a mission that was nearly impossible. Funny, it's like Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise movie. No, I'm joking. But yeah, he's teaching the young crowd how to do this impossible mission because they know only he could do it. So he's teaching people how to do what he does. And one of the people is actually his best friend who dies, son. And they have a deep relationship. Watch the movie. It was super good. Watch it. Character development was great. I have no really wrongs with it. Only that it just wasn't believable towards like the end and stuff, what happens and stuff. Like, they would have been dead. That's all I gotta say. Let me not say, it's not they would have been dead, but it's just like everything that led up to a point, which is like, how did they get through all that and then get to the end? Like, I don't know. Like, you gotta watch it. I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but it was just non-believable a little bit towards the end. So I would advise y'all to watch it. 9 out of 10. So definitely watch it. A lot of people, it was a lot of good feedback. So definitely watch it. Last but not least, I want to say this movie lastly because nobody really knows this movie. It's called Vengeance. Vengeance is about a writer for like a New York, New York like newspaper, and he's an aspiring podcaster, but he doesn't know what his theme is. And on the other end, this guy, that's the main character, he's also a womanizer. He messes with a lot of women on dating apps and stuff and all that good stuff. So he doesn't really have he has like, you could tell he has commitment and attachment issues. He gets his phone call one day from this family from Texas saying that his girlfriend just died. He's like, what are you talking about? He doesn't understand. Like, I don't have a girlfriend. He's like, no, you do. Like, it's this girl from Texas. He looks her up. It was a girl he used to mess with, but he didn't really have that close of a relationship with her. But somehow, some way, he goes back out to Texas. And once he goes out to Texas, they tell him they think they're trying to avenge her death. And they're like, he's like, bro, she died of like an opioid overdose. Like, she, didn't get murdered. And they think she got murdered. There's really no evidence. So he creates a podcast and has a theme to find the murderer of this death. So he's kind of like exploiting like Texas people for their like idiotic, like, ideas on how she died. But then it kind of becomes a murder mystery because there's some things that's pointed out that she possibly might have been killed. So it's very original, like, and it's super funny. I was laughing almost throughout the entire film, but it was super dramatic too. That's why I gave it a 9 out of 10. So I would advise to watch this movie. It was really good. 9 out of 10. For sure, 9 out of 10. Funny. Definitely would watch again. It's really hard to find in theaters, but you could pay $20 for it on Amazon Prime. So be sure to watch it. We're almost at the end of this Bredisode. So let's just play this.
Weezy out of here. Weezy out of here.
Hot questions. So this is not really hot questions. I'm gonna be honest. I'm just gonna go over the most underrated film, the most overrated film, and a movie that lived up to its hype. So the most underrated film, I have two of them. It is Vengeance and Batman. Those two films were the most underrated because nobody was really expecting Batman to be that good. And it actually was that good because people were still holding on to the Dark Knight days. So definitely watch Batman because Batman was that good. And Vengeance being another one because nobody knows that movie Vengeance. And it was actually the best movie I've seen this entire year. Obviously it's there's 1A and 1B with Top Gun and Vengeance. So I would advise to go out and watch Batman and Vengeance because they were the most underrated movies of the year. Most overrated film, Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul. I feel like just me as a black person, it was very hyped up in the black community. It was executive produced by Jordan Peele. It was produced by Daniel Kaluuya. You thought it was going to be this big hype, but really was super, super, super underwhelming of a film. So definitely very overrated. A movie that lived up to the hype. This is the last one. Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick lived up to the hype. It was hype when it was in the trailers. It was hype when they were talking about it. It was hype when people were talking about it when it came out to the theaters. The reviews were hyped. And when I watched it, it lived up to the hype. It was that good of a movie. So like I said, if you didn't take anything out of this podcast, just take that the sixes and up, I strongly recommend watching. So I'm gonna give you the list of the movies that were rated 6 and up. So The Barbarian was a 6 out of 10. Let me get into it. I have to scroll down the list. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a 6 out of 10. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was a 6 out of 10. And then 7 was Breaking. 8 was Nope. And Batman. And then the last 9s were Top Gun Maverick and Vengeance. Thank you so much. We have a Bredisode coming out next week on Streaming Culture. And we might have a surprise one coming out this month. Keep a tune in. Watch out. Bread Talk. The bread. Peace.
Woo. Spider. Sex. Yeah. 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 The price I want for a show, you gon' need 3 promoters. I got the body from Jim Ellis, but I had switched the motor. I got these badass bitch running around this bitch named all the coders. Yeah. I just told her make a story. Yeah. I just bought all the Trojans. Yeah. 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 I told her style my mix. Yeah. I told her stop telling everything she seen and told her meet me at the Ritz. Let's go. I got baguettes in the back of my ring and I went in trying to hit. I told her she gotta run to the team before she can talk to the lit. Yeah. Lamb chop, I just pulled up in some food. I told her mama tie all my shoes. Showed her 2 million cash, now she woozing. 20 watches and I'm still snoozing. I had came up out the trenches, then I had beat a few bodies like Boosie. She said you Merkle, I show you my coochie. I had to sing to this bitch like Latusi. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's go. Bitch got a backwood on her nightstand. She must be fucking with Ghana. Yeah, yeah. I fuck with slats and we gonna eat rats and I came with some fucking piranhas.